Hello and welcome to the Creator's Garden. I am called Harpy, and today we will be continuing working on the Snapdragon Club series, which is my original webcomic series. And the current installment is called The Actress's Tale. So I do have a few pages lined up for this stream, and while I am working on it, I will be going over some of my thoughts of what I think about the sort of direction I plan on taking the comic. So without further ado, let's go ahead and move on to the main camera. Alrighty. So as you can see, we already have this page completely done in terms of line art and doing the word bubbles. So it's this one and the next page that are all basically done in terms of line art. So they just need to be colored. The next 3 pages of this, though, I'm not quite certain I will be doing on stream. But if you ever want to see the pages before they get released for free on Tumblr, you're welcome to check out the Ko-fi, since I basically put them up in advance there, or on Patreon if you want the high definition pages once I scan them in. Because as much as I would love to put the the HD versions on Ko-fi, they can't accept file sizes that big, so unfortunately all the HD versions of the pages will have to stay on Patreon. But Ko-fi is the only one really that has like the cute little like interactions and stuff that you can do while I'm streaming. So there's that. But yes, as I was saying earlier, I was thinking a little bit about how I want to present my comic as... Oh. Hello, Repairman. Welcome, welcome. Glad you can make it. Hope you're doing well this morning. A good day to you, too. Why is the silly translation thing still going on? Oh, it's because you said Guten Tag, that's why. Silly YouTube. But yeah. As I was saying, I was thinking about how I wanted to properly market the comic, I suppose, since I haven't been doing a good job of advertising it or, you know, selling the idea, I don't think. And hello, Ferox, welcome, welcome, glad you can make it. Oh, early afternoon for you. You're doing okay? And when you say same, are you talking about in terms of like marketing your comic? Well, that's why I try my best to like help you out. Oh, by the way, how's the volume sounding for you guys? Just as a quick little litmus test, I suppose. Like, is music and mic volumes sounding all right to you? If I sit right here. Audio's good. Awesome. Volume's okay. Alright. I just don't like feeling like a shill, you know? Oh, absolutely. I understand that completely. But, you know, I like your work, so I am very much more than happy to shill for you on my channel. Which, by the way, speaking of which, if you haven't checked it out, he has a comic called Dungeon Smalls. So, if for whatever reason the Snapdragon Club series is not for you, maybe check out Dungeon Smalls. It's also a very lovely and cute fantasy type of adventure. Like, if you like tabletop type fantasy settings, and funny type stories with, you know, a little bit of character development, I think Dungeon Smalls is a perfect comment for you. Appreciate it. You should do more of the same for you. Oh, should I do this sort of thing? Well, only if you feel like it, you know? Oh, snap. I should put this clear plastic sheet back here. Because usually, like, the mixed media pages are fairly thick, so unless I'm like super layering the ink, it doesn't like seep through to the other side. But sometimes I can get a little overzealous in some areas, so. That's why that's there. But yeah, I was gonna say that I think I've been going the wrong way about being like, oh, you can start with like any tale within the Snapdragon Club. I think people don't really like that much amount of freedom when it comes to where to start. Maybe a little bit too daunting if it's a first time readership type thing. So I think based on the trajectory of how I've been developing the Snapdragon Club series, it is basically just going to be just go from, you know, whichever comic I made first and work your way through. And, you know, I will trust that the readers can eventually, you know, put the pieces together as to which came first. Because there's only so many ways that a story can go. So basically, the order that it's in right now in the playlist on my channel, that is precisely the order that it is going to go. The paper is bleeding. For now, it is not. It is holding very well because that's why I like this paper. That's why I like this mixed media pad. And hello, Dope. Welcome, welcome. Glad you can make it. Hope you're doing well. If you were to make a primer tail now, what might you do? I suggest you start here, but there's not too much order otherwise. By making a primer tail? I guess it would just be a general, like, Sanctus lore type tale. Maybe like a classroom, like a silly classroom type setting. Just be like, okay, here's the few concepts that you need to know that are like just a couple things that happen, and a few notable like fae or something. I don't know. I haven't thought too much about like how I do that. But that is an interesting thought. That could be cute, yeah. The sort of thing that came to mind was like when Steven Universe did like this one little mini-sode, I think, about how they tried to explain like gems and fusions and why Steven is so special. So, I don't know. I guess it's kind of similar to like what I did with the quick bios, which is something that someone requested I do as like a sort of quick way to get introduced to like some of the major characters that show up in the Snapdragon Club series. Which there's only 2 of them since a lot of characters overlap, especially between the Grand Opening and the Wanderer's Tale. There's basically like all overlap between those 2. And then Hunter's Tale has a little bit of overlap from Grand Opening, but also has its own characters that it focuses on. But yeah. And I think I also need to consider, like, in general, what this series is leading up to. Because all these tales that I am doing, they are to lead up to basically the big major plot that I really want to do. But just wanted to make sure that I had all the pieces in place before I continued and, you know, didn't accidentally walk all over myself. Like establishing core rules, core lore bits, that sort of thing. Something I gotta keep in mind. And I feel like if you really want to get everything that would make it make sense and for everything to hit as hard as I need it to, I should say, hey, this is the way it goes. You kinda do need to at least read, you know, all the other tales before you read this final tale that I plan to tell. How would I market the Snapdragon Club series? Because it's still basically an anthology series. But outside of that, I don't know. It gets a little bit difficult because, say, for instance, the grand opening comic was meant to be essentially a slice of life, you know? You're just following the managers and the hosts of the Snapdragon Club. Technically, Piero's the only manager. The rest are the hosts. But yeah, you're basically following the hosts of the Snapdragon Club, just basically doing their daily lives at the club and in the city of St. Flora. But then you have, like, The Wanderer's Tale, which is a reader POV comic, just for the reader to just kind of slide into the character of, like, a human that's been isekai to the world of Sanctus that gets to then visit the Snapdragon Club. Or The Hunter's Tale, which is a very more standard, you know, hero's journey type of story where it's like, oh, hero goes to buy a monster and wins the day somehow. How does the hero win the day? Well, you have to read to find out. The tough thing is always, hey, here's an idea for a new story, whether it's related to your current one or not. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a similar problem that I run into because I have a lot of characters in this world, but I have to make the decision as to which characters are actually, like, viable for actual important stories, or who's just characters that could just be there. They can make cameos. And that's kind of what I did originally with the grand opening comic, for example, was that I kept shoving a lot of cameo characters in there just because I wasn't quite sure if they would be pertinent enough to warrant their own stories just yet, which is why you see Dolly, Crystal in the grand opening way before I even started on the Hunter's Tale. The only ones who I knew were like pertinent for the main story at the time was Piero's father, Alden, Dreamwalker, and Scotty Hijack. Those were basically locked in as some of the major characters that I wanted to expound upon in what will probably be like the grand finale of the Snapdragon Club series. Okay, seriously, what did I color the street? I completely forget. Okay, it is very dark. I think it's cool gray 50. My rough summary looks into the lives and thoughts of various inhabitants of Sanctus, a wild land of fairies, demons, and everything in between. We see demon hunters, fantasy cafe staff, haunted actresses, and more. That's definitely a good way to summarize what we got here so far. Of course, this is YouTube live chat, so that's rough, but you get the idea. Absolutely. But yeah, Sanctus is, I think, what TV tropes would call a fantasy kitchen sink. I think that's what it's called. That's what the trope is called. Where it's just like, it's got everything in there. I had one absurd or unrelated idea I'm trying to flesh out and elaborate on. It started with absurdity. Fast food robots literally wage war against each other. But the more I'm looking, it's not a joke. So that's weird. Oh, Nothing wrong with fantasy kitchen sinks. I mean, they just make for just really great sandboxes, and I think, like, fandoms especially like, you know, a world that they think that they can play in. Which is definitely what I want Sanctus to be. A world to say, hey, you can imagine putting your OC in this. It's like, if you want them to be a hero in a fantasy, sure. If you want them to be a survival horror protagonist, go right ahead. Of course, Sanctus will have its own rules and limitations, but that's the fun of it. I did, like, consider at some point, like, trying to make my own, like, TTRPG manual for Sanctus, but I am just not really that great in making actual rules for it, so that would be, like, feasible in an actual game. But hey, at least it would make for a good, like, homebrew setting. What am I even doing? I was going to grab... Yeah, the whole thing with hard versus soft magic is only consider what it is your world is and commit to it. Yeah, basically. And here I am with a TTRPG on the back burner. It ain't easy, especially if you want to juggle works. Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. I love me a good TTRPG. But, yeah, coming up with your own rules for everything is a little bit more difficult. But I think Sanctus on its own is just a flexible enough setting that, you know, you can just pick your favorite TTRPG that's already out there and just use their rule set. It could probably fit. And whatever doesn't fit neatly, well, that's what you talk to your DM for. I was musing on mine and wound up recreating Roll Under out of First Principles. Yeah, that's fair. I envy people who can do surreal stuff well. The best is almost makes sense until you listen. I can't think of any good examples of that off the top of my head. You got any you have in mind? And speaking of all sorts of other marketing nonsense, I have thought about like changing the name of the channel, just because I know some people who like initially find my channel get a little bit confused as to what to call me, even though I try my best to alleviate that by introducing myself at the beginning of every stream, but it's like on one hand sure, but on the other, Harpy is such a generic word and I wouldn't really know what to rename my channel. Even if I did something like Harpy PNG tuber, or I don't know. It just seems a little too vague for marketing purposes, so I'll just have to stick with the artist name for now. My favorite is Homestar Runner Exchange. What are you doing? Why did you say doing like that? No, doing. Well, you spelled it the same. Yeah. I love Homestar Runner, man. It's because they basically stick with that, you know, like everything goes back to the way it was at the end of the episode, or everything is just condensed into that single episode and nothing really matters save for like vague, you know, shout outs to, oh yeah, remember that thing we did Which is how you get stuff like Hamsar. Exactly. And I still love the Homestar Runners' sense of humor. I'm glad they're still around, even in like YouTube form. So much of their stuff is so quotable, and their songs are great too. Even a parenthetical could help with the name, I bet. Hikari Harpy. I have thought about that. Except it's like, but Hikari is not the name of the Harpy. Harpy is Harpy. Monster Runner, in my opinion, is basically the adult world as kids imagine it. Effectively, yeah. I mean, especially when it comes to, like, Strong Bad. Oh, no, although Strong Bad's more like, I don't know. He seems like the typical, like stereotypical living in the basement type guy who thinks he's all that in a bag of chips, but we all know he isn't. As demonstrated by all his attempts to get the ladies. That's just always a lot of fun. Okay, so at least there's that. very much. I also didn't realize coloring the thin lines first makes so much sense. So thank you for that. Coloring the thin lines first. Oh, do you mean like the musical sheet stuff? Yeah, if it's like super thin, then I use the inking, my colored inking pens for those. Like the music before the flooring. Yeah. Because I don't know. I try to keep like, yeah, the inside in between the lines of the music notes like white, I think, because I think that helps it like stand out better. But yeah, and also just, yeah, making sure I just do it only on the outside so I know like not to fill in. Because as some of you have probably already seen me do a couple times in the streams, once I get into like a zone, sometimes I'll just keep filling in and even places that I didn't mean to fill in. Yeah. I've done it to myself. Yeah. We've been there. We've been there. But, especially with me doing traditional art, I have to learn to just kind of go with the flow. And if it's a, like, super huge thing that I can't really, like, take back, at least partially, then I just try to work with it as best as I can. One good example being like this one of the panels beforehand actually, where I filled it in with pure black, and I was like, did not mean to go there, but now that I have, I'll just make the best of it. fun fact about mine. There's an earlier draft of one page where Brutal let out a symbol swear, but it didn't feel right at the time at least, so I just rewrote the line. Also, one of my favorite words is Skrillex, which is the term for the symbol swears. Ah, yeah. I think I vaguely remember that. Just seemed like it was overkill, I guess. Yeah, it could be. It really highly depends on like the type of character that Brutal is, I suppose. And also the type of tone that you want to set for your comic. Like for instance, mine is a super personal choice, but I personally like don't usually do swearing in the comics. Not even usually like Grolix even. Like in general, I'm more of a gosh darn it to heck sort of person. So usually the writing in the comics kind of reflects that. And whenever someone does let out some sort of like expletive, it's usually something that would like fit within the lore of the world. For instance, in a grand opening comic, there is one point where Puro is trying to like avoid questioning and gives some like answer that Mac doesn't believe, so he calls it out by saying tar dung. So for context, tar is the name that is given to like cattle, bulls, so, and dung is poop, so you can put two and two together as to what that's supposed to mean. I guess totally I'd be the same in Dungeon Smalls. Besides, I can always save it for the right moment, so no reason to do it now. Yeah, you could definitely do that. It is just very funny to think about when I think if it weren't for my personal censoring, there might have been like a few characters in Sanctus that would, use actual swears and cursing. But unfortunately, they are written by me and not VivsyPop, so I joke, of course. I joke. Right now, I'm having just a little bit of trouble because I'm just trying to find the right, like, desaturated tone to use in the back that isn't too light. But I also don't want it meshing too much. I might have to use the green gray on that actually. That's cool gray. That's the red gray. Here's the green gray. cute to the desaturated tones because it is still spooky land, effectively. It was really nice to do this comic though, just because, like, it allowed me to do some more creepier, spookier drawings than I would usually do. I've actually been getting into, back into creepypastas a bit, specifically Slenderman. Just because he's just so fun to draw, you know? And it's like drawing basically like those mannequins from the clothing stores, you know? It's like, oh, you can just dress them up however you want. And they got like even tones and stuff, and you can just mess around with that however you want. And I don't know, it's just kind of relaxing. This comic also, like, is where I, like, basically change the way that the monsters are designed, because, like, you see at least one monster in, The Hunter's Tale. And it's like, there's that variation of monster. But then, when you come to The Actress's Tale, the monsters are not quite the same. And that is not going to be explained why they're different until another installment. This color, luckily enough, is bright enough that it's not going to really get too in the way, so I can fill in this space here. And that helps to put the musical notes into focus just a teensy bit more. almost done with this page, I think. Made up swears works too. Yeah. Chris has a good one, a legitimate plot point for the comic Nodwick. Ah. Peck from Hat in Time. Ah. Yeah, that is cute. Slens was a good one. Yeah. So many ways to draw in too. I feel if I was a child and saw the Ruby Merchant, I would have cried. That is absolutely fair. I mean, he doesn't look so threatening when you see Ruby Merchant like this. But yeah, if you saw like the couple of pages where you kind of get a hint as to what else is underneath his cloak, then yeah, he's a little spooky. And that is precisely the point. He is supposed to be a bit spooky. Because I am a huge fan of having characters that are maybe look like they could be bad guys or look harmful, but are actually like either really sweet or benign or benevolent. That's just one of my personal tropes that I like. That's just about all I can do for this page. It's very much a setup type of page, so it's like there's not a lot of huge action going on, but there is movement. And it's one of those pages that I felt like I absolutely needed to have in order for like the next, bit of action to have the impact that I wanted it to have. Because if I went straight there like I was planning to do, then it would just be like, I think something's kind of missing here. Just because I know where it's going doesn't mean the reader will know, So it's like, gotta slow it down sometimes. So that's why I basically use like the musical note trail to basically say, alright, this is where we're going. This is where we're going. Holding the reader's hand, this is where we're going. And this is what I mean by a different kind of monster. You now get to see the effects of what those musical notes do. quick look at the line art before we get started. Although considering I don't really... I don't think I can show the next 3 pages on stream. I do have a couple of pages that are like mostly sketched in, but yeah, not a whole lot. You love the storytelling? Thank you. I'm trying to improve. You know, I try to like leave it alone, go back and reread a little bit of it when it's like not so, you know, fresh in my mind. But yeah, I'm trying my best. Is all I can say about that. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'll start a little bit of coloring. Actually, let's start with that onomatopoeia right here. I have no idea what I was trying to go with for that. I think I wanted it to look blocky to try and like emphasize the impact, but not quite sure it came through correct. So let's see, what color would be good there? It's like at first I wanted to go red, but that's maybe a little too intense for what I'm going for. Can I get away? I think I definitely want it to be a bright color so it like stands out because everything else will be so desaturated. More neutrals and grays, that type of thing. I struggle with how to tell my story sometimes. I mean, welcome to the club. I have been struggling on how to present the Snapdragon Club for the longest time. And, you know, initially it wasn't even going to, you know, I thought it was going to be completely set in St. Flora, in the Snapdragon Club, and never go anywhere else. I thought I was just going to do everything there. It's just going to be all slice of life the entire way through. And that everything else could just be background and stuff. And you get to see like the results of other stories, but not see the actual story unfold. But I think at some point I did get like a little bit bored of it, as I am wont to do sometimes. And that's when I started going, alright, this one could be more set in the Snapdragon Club, whereas others can be like more vaguely related to the Snapdragon Club but take place in other places of the world. To tell the truth, Dungeon Smalls was going to be a test run, but it grew attached. I mean, hey, if you like end up loving it so much, you know, it's great, you know? I mean, I love it. And that's why I keep shilling it. It's because I love following it. I'm invested. I want to know what happens next with Brudil and Plet. But yeah, and even in terms of like Harpy, for instance, if you want to talk about things that just ended up, you know, becoming, you know, their own thing, Harpy was just going to be, you know, my artist, my PNG tuber persona in a sense. But then I added lore to it, and it always happens. Whenever I add lore to like my persona, then it just becomes an OC and not my Sona anymore. So I'm like, well, I can't quite say that this completely reflects me anymore. Like, yes, Harpy still maintains like a few aspects that, you know, that I like, or things that you know, are somewhat related to me, but not all of it. And now she's also too part of the Sanctus lore, in a sense. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to start maybe with this yellow right here. I don't know how bright this is going to end up being. Maybe some orangish stuff going on. Maybe I'll do that. And I think once I'm done figuring that out, I'll go ahead and take a little bit of a break. Because it is warm in the Creator's Garden. And I need to go call Feather King to fetch me some milk tea. Alright. So what we are going to do now is we're going to go on break. As usual, the fishing minigame will still be available, as well as the ability to summon the Borbs. They love the enrichment. But yeah. When we get back, we will finish coloring the page, and we will most likely be ending stream there once the page is finally done. So, yeah. I will be right back. And I am back. Hope you guys had a good break. Feather King got me some nice milk tea. Stretch my wings. Stream Elements caught a canned sardine. Because why in the world not? Why in Sanctus not? Back there, so that should be fine. Trying to push the colors a little bit. Just so they're not too dark. this gray is so light that I can pretty much easily cover over this with just about anything. Some of these browns because I definitely need those. I can't say for certain why I designed the monsters the way they did for the actress's tail in particular, but they were kind of the first thing that came to mind for me when I was designing monsters for this particular locale. Like, they kind of just originated from me attempting to do some creepy, sketchy doodles. You know, the start of any good creepypasta. And I just kind of liked how the lines came together, and somehow they just kind of came to form these weird scarecrow almost type creatures. But they basically act like zombies, effectively. And I completely forgot of thinking I need to refill this marker though. You did begin this journey in Spooky Month, if I recall correctly. So that probably had a hand. Yeah, probably. Like, the concept for this locale in particular has been around, like, in the background for a while. Even before I started this comic. It's just taken me a hot minute to actually get here. Okay, where did I put that particular ink? It's not this one, because that's Horizon Blue. That's the red gray. Not that one. That's neutral gray. Where in the world did I put the green purple flower one? It's not lilac. Okay. Double checking that I didn't leave it anywhere else. Goodness. I swear I put my supplies back where I found them. And that's Galaxy Blue. That's the blue-gray, the Horizon Blue. That's light blue. Did I leave it over here? That's not light blue. There's the Horizon Blue. So at least there's that. Oh, that's where I put it. did put it back. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do the thing that Mr. Repairman doesn't like me doing. My ink, which means it's time for a refill. A little bit more good on this marker. Okay. Hi. Yeah. I didn't think I'd be using the Horizon Blue as much as I am. I'm just surprised at the ink levels. That should be good enough. Those are great. more quiet. Just focusing a little bit more. Especially when I have to get more in between lines and details. Trying to recall if I colored Wilder's boots before. I'm pretty sure I did. Just can't recall which. Possible I have not. Well. just now realizing these are knee-high boots, and I didn't do the liner for that. It looks like he has business casual on, and it's funny. It's always neat to see a half-colored thing. Yeah, I can see. I can see that. Yeah. He big, gross, silent type. Designing Wilder actually took me a while. He's one of those characters that are not actually like a refurbished character from something else. I made him specifically for Actress's Tale and Mackenzie's backstory. And his design was kind of loosely based on like slasher, serial killer type stuff and Pyramid Head. So, yeah. am almost done with this page. And as I said earlier, once I'm done, I will call the stream. So I would like to preemptively say thank you everyone who decided to stop by, whether you are watching the VOD or in chat. I appreciate you being here. And if you enjoyed seeing my art and my stories, I hope you consider leaving a like, a comment, or subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And if you have already, thank you very much. And if you're feeling super duper generous, we do have the Ko-fi link right up there in the corner. You could buy me a boba. You can become a visitor of Sanctus and get a borb attributed to your name that shows up at the beginning of every stream. And also, on Ko-fi we have the Ko-fi shop where you can buy stickers, including the Princess Borb sticker, my Harpy form stickers, and all sorts of different cute outfits, as well as many of the major characters from the Snapdragon Club series, including the ones from the Actress's Tale, like the Ruby Merchant, or even Mackenzie Varens. And as a reminder, you can find the Snapdragon Club webcomic either on Tumblr via the links on my channel page, or you can go ahead and watch the playlist I have on the channel called the Snapdragon Club series. It starts off with the slideshow version of the grand opening comic, which again is a slice of life comic. And then it goes into the comic dub version of both the Wanderer's Tale and the Hunter's Tale. It's still up in the air whether or not the Actress's Tale will get a comic dub version or even a slideshow version, just because I'm not completely sure how some of the panels might be taken. But we'll see how that goes. But anyways, thank you all for joining me. And I hope to see you guys the next time I stream, which should be this coming Tuesday. So, see you then. Bye. Thank you for coming. Bye.